welcome to our very first episode of Afters.
Afters, not afters.
Afters.
Afters. We posh, wasn't it?
Afters with Joe and Chelsea. I'm Chelsea. I'm 28.
20 years old, what are you?
I am 28 years old.
28, okay.
You're 30?
No, not yet. I'm holding on to my 20s.
And I am a small business owner.
Is this where I introduce myself?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I am Joe. I am a PE teacher. So I have taught from secondary. I've qualified as a secondary PE teacher. I've then moved to Qatar to teach full school PE. So from FS stage all the way up to sixth form, and then now I'm just back down to a primary PE teacher.
Lovely.
Oh, I coach a bit of rugby on the weekend as well.
Very nice. And we obviously love self-growth, and we want to help the everyday person discover their own self-growth journey.
Yeah, that's the plan.
So do you want to introduce?
Yeah, so the Afters I've just said it there. Afters podcast is going to be different topics that we'll cover. So the first one's going to be sleep, and each topic will last around 4 weeks, so 4 topics. The episodes will last between 20 and 30 minutes and will be released once a week.
Every week from the end of October.
But this is the first podcast, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
So every
week
there'll
be
and it will be filmed, so it'll be on YouTube. So hello if you're watching on YouTube, and hello to those people listening on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Yes, and we also have an Instagram where we'll be dropping all of our recent episodes, as well as loads of tips, links to people's Instagrams, books, podcasts, everything self-growth. So that is at Afters with Joe and Chelsea, if you want to give us a follow.
Yeah, lots of likes, lots of follows.
So the importance of sleep is going to be the first topic that we cover. And the reason we want to talk about sleep first, we didn't want to create a snooze fest, but sleep is the single most effective thing to reset our brains and our bodies, and it is literally our life support system, and it's just not spoken about enough. We don't have enough information on it. It's definitely not advertised like a lot of other health things are, so we just really wanted to help those scientists and other podcasters, etc., kind of spread the word.
Yeah, and I think with all these podcasts, like we said in our introduction video that we sent out, was we are by no means the experts here. We are just trying to simplify what all the information we've taken in and kind of give it out to you guys at home in a more accessible manner. So all these big words and big phrases they use, scientific terminology, etc., we want to try and dumb it down basically, yeah. And make sure that you can access it and take bits that you feel like you could implement into your lives, and not try and follow everything we say, because we have done it ourselves and we found what works for us and what doesn't.
Yeah. So speaking of, how was your sleep last night?
How was my sleep? Well, I got 86 out of 100 on my sleep score.
So technical.
And I got 8 hours and 2 minutes according to my Garmin watch.
That's a good amount of time.
So it's a very good amount of time for me, yeah.
What would you say is your optimum sleep time?
I'd probably say about 8 hours, yeah. When I don't get 8, I do feel a little bit groggy in the morning, but weirdly I feel better when I've had 6.5 than 7.5. So it must
So your
be.
optimum is 7, but
No, my optimum is 8, but
So your optimum-
I feel worse when I've had 7.5 compared to when I've had 6.5.
Oh, okay.
So it must be something to do with my sleep cycle, and we'll get on to that a bit later.
Yes, we will.
But yeah, overall, very good night's sleep last night, according to my phone. But if I was to talk about my actual feeling, I'd say I didn't really want to get up this morning to go out. I could have laid in bed for a bit longer. But yeah, I'm happy with my sleep last night. What about you? How's your sleep?
I feel like I had a really good sleep last night.
Why is that?
Because you didn't wake me up snoring.
It's going to be a recurring theme on here about stuff that I don't do that makes her feel better.
Well, we did discover a thing not long ago. We read about sleep divorce, which apparently is a thing which we had no idea about. But when we learnt about it, we did discover that actually we do disrupt each other's sleep.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But usually when we have disrupted sleep, it is because of the other person. Well, it's for me anyway.
And when and when we do feel like we're more agitated with each other, it probably is because of one of us affecting each other's sleep, isn't it?
Yes, I've never thought about that actually, but that is, sometimes I just wake up and like, you're really irritating me and I don't know why. You've
This
affected
one
mine.
is awful when she doesn't get her 8 hours. Awful.
I would actually say my optimum's more 8.5.
Yeah, I'd say you need more beauty sleep.
Am I not beautiful enough? You walked into that one.
I did. Before we talk about some unusual sleep experiences or sleep quirks, what do you notice about yourself the day after when you've had the right amount of sleep and not enough sleep? How do you feel? What do you notice differently about yourself? This is a proper interview now, isn't it?
Yeah.
No pressure.
I think for me, the biggest thing is my mood. I think I can, obviously I probably can't scientifically, but feeling wise, I think I can get on with things regardless. But my mood and how I react to situations, which may normally be fine. This is why you asked this question, isn't it?
No.
Yeah, I'd say not enough sleep, my mood. I can't rationalise as well.
Okay.
Is there science behind that one?
I think so, yeah. In Matthew Walker's book, I'm not going to try and quote it because I'll get it wrong, and he'll message
I've
me.
put you on the spot now.
He'll message me and he will try and get our podcast shut down. But I think what I have read about it is the emotion behind the events of the day are kind of removed as a byproduct when we go to sleep, so we don't wake up feeling those same emotions that we had the day before. So if you're not getting the right amount of sleep or insufficient amount of sleep, you might have missed out on a sleep cycle or a stage of sleep that's important for removing that. I think it's the deep sleep stage, so stage 4, or the REM sleep stage. So if you haven't got enough of that, you might be waking up feeling a kind of mismatch of emotions that you could have got rid of the night before, and then you might lose your patience. Then obviously the concentration comes into it as well. Lack of concentration or the ability to focus on a task for a certain amount of time.
So simplified, in a relationship point of view, how am I through your eyes when I haven't had enough sleep?
No, I think what you said there is pretty much bang on. Like when you haven't slept, you can tell the difference of how well you respond to certain things that maybe I would do to you or say to you normally, and you wouldn't like react the same way. So I might be winding you up, or we're being sarcastic, or
good morning, darling. How do you sleep?
yeah, things
Shut
like
up.
that. Yeah, no, it is, and you kind of get a bit like, whoa, okay, you've had a rough night's sleep, or you've not got the sufficient amount. But you ask anyone when they haven't had enough sleep, no one is a nice person when they haven't had enough sleep.
No.
Maybe a couple of people, but the people that I've met and known, like, something will always change in your personality or your characteristics when you've not had enough sleep. You either get angry, get short-tempered, you get like quieter, like more reserved, because you don't have the energy to like get
so it's
involved
quite
in
scary,
conversations.
isn't it, to think that like one night of not very good sleep can change you that much, and then consistently people are not getting enough sleep. Either high demanding job, or they've got sleep apnea, or any one of those things, and all of a sudden they're a completely different person.
Yeah, it's scary. I think when you do get a good night's sleep, that I see from you is you treat me better. You are a lot more, there's like energy, like there's this energy that you give off that makes you more determined, or you have more of an impact on things that you're doing. You want to do more throughout the day. You're active when you want to be in a conversation, but that will fluctuate through the day as well. It won't just stay the same all day. Like, you're in the morning, for example, when we went to New Zealand, there was a good week where we couldn't get our sleep right because it was too cold, or there was noises, or the bed was breaking, or whatever. And
there's also time difference issues there, wasn't there?
And that first point in the morning when we wake up, we normally have a coffee and we're actually quite nice to each other. It never happened, because you or me were just moaning about like, oh, my back hurts, or oh, I just feel so tired, or I feel so groggy, I just need more sleep. And it goes in this cycle, because you then want to have good sleep, and then when you go to sleep, you're just thinking you want to have good sleep. So yeah, it does change you, I think, quite a bit. But we're going to delve into next 4 episodes about how we can, well, definitely next 2 about how you can improve your sleep.
Yes, we are. So the reason I think these books kind of affected us in the way that they did, I mean, for me personally, one of the things that we discussed when we read these books was, why have we never been told this? Why have we never heard about all of this? Why is this not being advertised? Like, why is it not more common knowledge? And obviously, if we're sleeping, then we're not consuming and we're not creating. So from an economy point of view, why would the world want us to sleep? And then that's where it becomes tricky, because like I said at the start, it is our literal lifeline, but it's also in conflict with the way that our world is today.
Yeah. Did you get taught about sleep at school?
No, the only thing I remember from school is whenever there was an exam, our teacher would go, make sure you have sleep. Make sure you go to sleep tonight and get a full night's sleep before your exam tomorrow. Don't stay up all night revising. And that's the only thing I ever knew about sleep from school.
Yeah, I don't remember being told anything. Obviously, people said you need to have an early night as like a classic saying, but no one's saying no one's kind of identifying the importance of sleep and what happens if you don't get it. I think it's massive. I think one of the reasons we've picked this topic as the first topic is we just feel so passionately about it. And if you're going to speak about in a minute about these 2 different books we've read in the podcast, but they do open up your eyes of what, like you said, it's your lifeline. Like every single person, animal has to sleep of some sort. So why is it not getting talked about? Why is it not at the front of a health pandemic that in these books they talk about all the positive effects of sleep? When you go to your doctor, it could double, triple, maximize the benefits of taking the equivalent of taking a pill or a medication, because of the amount of positive effects it has on your body. Why is that not getting prescribed? It's not, because there's just a lack of understanding and lack of urgency for it. And like you've just said there, there's these bigger entities, these bigger companies, the governments, they are all in it to, I don't want to sound pessimistic or cynic,
conspiracy podcast.
They are there to grab our attention, and if we're all getting an 8 hours sleep, that's a lot of time wasted that we are on Netflix. There's a lot of time we're not consuming.
Not time wasted for us though, that's optimal time. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think as well, the other interesting thing for me was understanding chronotype. So there's always that thing, you know, and again, this would come back to school, like, I'm just not a morning person. And your teachers would be like, you know, nonsense, like, you're getting up, you get up at this time, it's consistent. You should get into the flow of it and make sure you get up at that time at the weekend. So then, you know, it's everything kind of falls into place and becomes consistent. But Matthew Walker, which is the book that we found it from, says that you are either a morning or an evening person, and there is absolutely nothing that you can do about it. It is hardwired into you. And I think in terms of self-growth, it's so important to be aware of that and to learn what you are, because you can start working for yourself instead of against yourself, which is huge when you're trying to go on this self-growth journey. Because if you're, for example, reading, and I don't want to bash anybody or any books, but the 5 a.m. Club, which we did we were like, wow, and we really got into it. But actually, if you're not a morning person, you're consistently like 5, I've got to do this. And then on the weekend, you're exhausted. You may have a few extra hours in bed, which the book advises against. And then, but your body needs that because you're then catching up on sleep, because you're not a morning person. So, and because you're not a morning person, you maybe go to bed later, and you may really, really struggle to go to bed earlier so that you can get up earlier. And actually, you know, you probably spend more time beating yourself up at the fact that you're not this perfect adult that gets up really early and attacks the day, because what you don't understand is that you're not biologically hardwired that way. You go to bed later because you're biologically hardwired to go to bed later. And in doing that, you then have a sleep cycle that finishes later on. So if you're like, no, I've got to do this because, you know, this is what adults do, this is being, you know, the best version of myself, you're actually missing out on certain parts of your sleep cycle, which are critical to your survival. And I think it's such a big thing to understand what type of chrono you have, what you are. And you can be in the middle. You can, you know, maybe go to bed a bit later and be an earlier riser, but you are one or the other. You're not both.
Yeah, so it's morning, you're a lark. So that means you go to bed early and you wake up early naturally, because your body's circadian rhythm goes to the more towards the sun, the setting of the sun and the rising of the sun, whereas a morning an evening owl is where you're going to bed later and you're waking up later, because you still need to get your 7 to 9 hours, depending on what age you are.
Yeah.
But you prefer, you just, your body's circadian rhythm is naturally that little bit later than other people's. So a classic that me and you have probably both been through, we've talked about before, and shout out to all the teenagers out there. How many times did your parents get annoyed at you for sleeping in on the weekend?
Or not, yeah, or just being called lazy.
Or being called lazy, yeah. So I remember doing a paper round and forcing myself up on a Saturday or working at Greg's or whatever it was. And I was so tired because my chronotype is going through a change of phase, which happens in teenagers. So you might go from being a lark to then changing to an evening owl. But then as it kind of levels out, you might then go back towards being an owl, a lark. But that's what's happened to me. I now prefer getting up earlier. But the amount of abuse teenagers get from parents and from older people because they just don't understand this, and we didn't understand it. But this is science. Like, this is scientifically proven that there's 22 genes that are dictating how your body goes towards the circadian rhythm that you link to. So you don't have a choice.
No.
But people need to be aware that through those teenage years, so probably about the age of 12 to 18, you're kind of mixing up all over the place. So you've got to give them that opportunity to sleep. Now, we're not saying that all teenagers can stay up as late as they want and go to sleep when they want and then wake up when they want. But just sitting down with your children and saying, look, I know you're feeling like you can't go to bed early, but I just want you to know that we know that it's not your fault and that you're
catching up
on sleep. We'll just strike a deal. Like, look, I don't want you going to bed at 3 a.m, but like, try and get to bed as earlier the better, because by the time you then go back to school on Monday, you're going to be in so much sleep debt that you're going to feel rubbish and awful, aren't you?
And then I think from an adult point of view, just understanding what you are.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself guilt-free to sleep when you're hardwired to sleep.
Yeah.
You know, the perfect person does not get up at 5 o'clock every morning and, attack the day.
People are different, aren't they?
Yeah, it is different. And I think that's the beauty of self-growth. Like, you start to understand yourself and what works for you. Yeah. And it allows you to grow in a way that suits you, and you're not comparing yourself to other people, and you understand that this is what is best for yourself, and that is the most important thing. Like, one size does not fit all across every aspect of life.
So true. Yeah. And I think a bit he talks about in the book as well, this Matthew Walker, he talks about how difficult it is for teenagers with school, with how early school starts, which just doesn't match up to these children's circadian rhythms. So they will always naturally feel tired for the first 3 to 4 hours of school because they are not getting enough sleep. They're not getting the right amount of stage 4, stage 5 sleep, whatever it is. So they cannot concentrate. So teachers get annoyed. Parents get annoyed. Why is my son dozing off in lessons? And now, me being a teacher, it's opened my eyes up.
Yeah,
in my pastoral role last year, I could see that these kids are coming and telling me, they're so honest. They're telling me when they're going to sleep. They're going to bed at 2 a.m, 3 a.m, and getting up. They're only having 4 hours sleep, 3-4 hours sleep.
Wow.
How do you expect to function if you can't get enough sleep?
Yeah.
We have just talked about how we feel or what we see from each other. Imagine being a kid.
Yeah. And I think as well, if you are struggling as a parent, obviously we're not parents yet, but having read these books, if you are struggling with issues with, for example, like your child has just been diagnosed with ADHD, or you're really struggling to get them to bed or to wake them up, the only recommendation I would have for you is to read these books or listen to Matthew Walker's podcasts.
He's on High Performance and on Diver CEO, isn't he?
Yes, he's on both. So if you just prefer to listen to podcasts, definitely listen to those, because he describes the issues of sleep deprivation in teenagers, and a lot of the time, most of the time, which is another really scary thing, which we won't go too much into, is that sleep deprived kids are being diagnosed with ADHD because the symptoms are so similar. And that is all to do with the fact that kids do have to get up 5 days a week for school, which goes completely against their circadian rhythm for that age. It is a minefield. There is so much to take in, and it is difficult because you are fighting against a school system. But if you are having those kind of issues and you are a parent and you want to know more, that Matthew Walker is definitely the one to listen to, or read his book for sure.
Yeah. Something I picked up from his book was when he spoke about the kind of topic around sedative hypnotics, so sleeping pills, sleep medication, and also alcohol. What I did not know was that when you have drank a certain amount of alcohol, I couldn't tell you the amount, or you are taking sleeping tablets or medication, the sleep you get is not actual quality sleep. So you miss out on the kind of benefits of deep sleep and non-REM sleep. So
what is it?
So
if
dreaming,
it's not sleep?
so dreaming and the kind of deep sleep that you need. So I think what he says, it's more like light sleep or maybe early stages of stage 2, stage 3. So you're not actually getting any of the benefits when you have drank too much alcohol or you are taking sleeping tablets. So that is why there's a real issue with people with insomnia or other illnesses that will get addicted to these things because they do get to sleep, so they think they're getting their night's sleep.
So when I've had maybe like one too many gins at a brunch and I come home and I'm like really tired, so I'm not passing out or being sick drunk, I'm just really tired, and I get into bed and the minute I hit the pillow I'm gone, and then I wake up in the morning a bit groggy, obviously I've got a hangover, and I'm like, but I've slept really well, like I've throughout the night, but I'm not sleeping.
No, so you will then feel your hangover the next day, and predominantly that feeling is you've not had enough sleep. It's not, obviously you've got all those toxins in your body that you need to get rid of from the alcohol and maybe the food you might have eaten late at night, but you haven't had the right amount of sleep or the quality of sleep. So your body is craving for you to go to sleep, and when you've had a hangover, you're always sleeping. Like you're always wanting that sleep. I'm starting to see the similar things as well with myself. That I just feel rubbish. I feel groggy. I feel like I can't, like itchy in my own skin. I just need to go to bed and try and sleep it off. And that's almost when you start to feel a bit better. So
that sleep that you're having throughout the day is actually sleep, so you're getting the sleep cycles in. Is that why you feel better?
Yeah, so as well, if you were to take a sleeping tablet, I've actually never taken any, so I can't really speak on my own experience, but that is generally why people don't feel as good after having slept through sleeping pills than they do with a good night's sleep. So no matter how many sleeping pills you can take to make you go to sleep, you will never feel the same benefits of when you've had a good night's sleep without anything affecting it. So I think that was one of the massive things most eye-opening things I saw or read in the book from Matthew Walker. I mean, if you get time, guys, at home to read these books, they are phenomenal, and I think there's so many things we could talk about, from caffeine, from why,
and we will delve a bit deeper into this in the upcoming episodes.
They are just, there's just so much that we don't know, or we've never realised before, and it needs to be shared with people. Like, it needs to be shared with the general public, because it's getting lost along the way, and the amount of benefits you can have from a good night's sleep are massive. But I
mean, some of the health benefits.
I'll list a few off here. Like, you've got more immune robust, you've got regulating your body sugar level, you've got controlling your appetite hormones. Who at home has ever who had a rubbish night's sleep, and the next day your diet just goes out the window? Like, you just want to eat loads of rubbish food,
sugar.
That regulation of, like, the appetite hormones just go all skewed. So fixating memories, like your learning, de-escalating emotions, your trauma, cleanses away the Alzheimer's proteins that build up in your brain. There's just an endless list of
which, that is another really amazing thing as well. Those Alzheimer's proteins that build up daily, and your sleep replenishes everything.
Yeah.
And that's why that they've now linked potentially lack of sleep directly to Alzheimer's.
Loads of studies saying it.
And it's just little things like that you just have no idea. And then you go down this rabbit hole, and you start kind of putting two and two together, like, oh, that's why I feel like this, or that's why I've not been able to remember X, Y, or Z.
It's crazy. One other fact, sorry,
go on. He's getting excited now.
This is just phenomenal, right? So I don't know if you've ever wondered this, but like, when do, like, fish or dolphins or whales sleep? Like, if they're underwater, like, obviously fish, they don't need to breathe, right? They don't need air to live.
No.
But like a mammal, like a dolphin, how are they sleeping if they always have to breathe every 30 minutes or what? I don't know don't quote me on how long it takes them to breathe, to come up to the air to breathe. So they have a unihemispheric sleep. So that means one part of their brain, half their brain, will go to sleep, and one half will stay awake. So it can still perform the life-saving functions of breathing or evading predators or whatever it is. So a dolphin will go up to the surface when it's sleeping to breathe, but it won't remember it, because I don't know if dolphins have memories, but they're not aware of it. And then, like, other animals, like birds, will do it as well. He talks about on his podcast that row of birds where if you get in the middle of the branch, when you're a big flock of birds, you can completely have your full sleep, so you don't have to be unihemispheric, whereas the ones on the edge of the flock have to have half sleep, because they have to be looking out for predators or prey or whatever they need to be looking out for, which is just phenomenal, right? And
that's Mother Nature.
But the Mother Nature flaw is humans haven't been given that. So what is the reason?
But then this is where that chronotype
comes in,
because back in our
primal days,
that's the one. Those that slept earlier, obviously you go to bed first, and then you'd have your later sleepers still awake, so they could protect the tribes.
Or do the job.
And then there would only be a period of maybe 2 or 3 hours where the whole tribe was asleep before the early risers got up, and those later risers carried on their full amount of sleep. Yeah,
Mother Nature. She's a beauty.
She's a beauty. So just to round off this podcast, I think we could talk for hours, which is why we've got another 3 episodes on sleep coming up. So 2 books that we would recommend
Yeah.
to start you off on your sleep growth journey would be The Neuroscience of Excellent Sleep by Stan Rodsky. And the second one would be Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep. So The Neuroscience of Excellent Sleep, I would say, is probably the best one to read if you just want an overview. It's really easy to read. You can read it really quickly. And it's got loads of information. So if you're a parent and you're worried about your child's sleep or how much sleep they should be getting, it's got loads of information about the ages and how much sleep is relative to the age of your kids.
Yeah, and what you can do if you are struggling with them going to sleep and getting that routine. I think that's one thing that scares me the most about how we're going to feel having the lack of sleep, and then making sure our newborn baby is getting the right amount of sleep. And there's so much helpful information in there about what
all the way through from newborn through to teenager,
and what is expected, and like what point you need to start maybe asking for professional help,
and how to help them get into a good routine as well. And then obviously the Matthew Walker one is absolutely fantastic, but it is very scientific.
It is,
and it is a very long read. So if you're really interested in sleep and you want to get into the nitty gritty, that is definitely the one for you. And there's also podcasts.
Oh, so many.
We've already said about Matthew Walker being on The Diary of a CEO and High Performance. So if you're into podcasts, definitely give those a listen. Thanks so much for listening, guys.
Well, what's happening next week?
And next
episode,
we're going to have a fun little quiz.
I'm going to win.
We're both very competitive, so we'll see how this one goes, actually filming us going against each other.
You're not going to win.
He'll be in a mood with me if I win. Maybe I'll let you win.
Just blame it on sleep. Lack of sleep.
So we will see you next week.
See you next week. Thank you so much for watching and listening.
Also, if you have any questions, please send them in. Our 4th episode will be all around answering your questions on, how to get into a better routine, or just generic questions around sleep. Please send them in. We'll try and answer as many as possible that we can to the best of our knowledge in the 4th episode.
Are we doing this thing where they thank all the sponsors for the podcast and tell them to like and subscribe our channel, things like that? Or is that too much for our podcast? Does AFAS do that or not? Yeah, if you get a moment, just any support would be great.
Support would be fab.
Like or subscribe or whatever you do these days. I don't know.
Whatever, whatever.
In all honesty, thank you so much for listening or watching. And we'll see you soon.
Bye for now.